What is up, guys? And you know what? I never told you that I love you. I love you. In fact, come over, give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. Well, that was awkward. But we have a new game that we're going to create, and it's going to make it less awkward. So I'm going to hit the play button, and we are going to see a really cool game. So now we are starting to, generate our levels. You can see we have a nice ball that is jumping, and the camera is not going to make our life easier. So this is a mobile game, by the way. You can play it on your mobile devices. I will show you how to create that. It looks simple. It looks one-clicky, but it's challenging. It's really challenging to, you see, I cannot beat it. You see, I cannot beat this game. As you can see, it's really hard. It's annoying, and I'm going to start crying. I called my grandma a couple of times while I was creating the game. But anyways, it looks like a simple concept, but you will learn a lot of cool things. The game is really challenging. You can just pour it on your mobile device, play it, but don't throw your phone away. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking. Thank you for watching this video. Watch it till the end. Hit the like button and subscribe button. It will help me a lot. Hit them right now. Do it. Anyways, I'm going to leave here and continue or enjoy the rest of the video. So see ya in the next part. Okay, now that we have that weird moment out of the way, let us create the game. As you can see, I have a new project, and it's a 2D project, and I'm using Unity 2020. Yeah, thank you, Unity 2020. Yeah, I'm using that. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do, as always, we are going to import the assets, and you can download them. Link to the assets will be in the description below. Basically, you can download them from my website. So over here, I have sprites. I'm simply going to drag and drop them over here, and that's all what you need to know. Now, when it comes to these sprites, if I go here, we have, just the basic, square, circle, whatever. These are, if you open them or if you click on them, you will see it's 4 pixels by 4 pixels, a simple cube. That's all there is to it. So what I'm going to do with the circle is, so first select the circle, so select it over here, and then over here we need to make sure it's set on the Sprite 2D. So if you're using a 2D game, it will be set over here to Sprite 2D. If by any chance it's not, make sure that you set it on that. Next, over here, I'm simply going to change the sprite mode from single to polygon, and over here, pixel per unit, I'm going to say 4. So that means 4 pixels per 1 unit, which is going to make the circle big. Okay, we have a problem that we need to address. See this image over here? Do you see it? It shows that only 6% of you watching my videos are females. What is up, girls? Am I not pretty enough? Is it the beard? You don't like the beard? Do I look like a psychopath with the beard? Because I will shave it. If you watch the videos, I will shave it. So step it up, girls. Step it up. We want more females over here. But in all seriousness, I welcome the female and the male watchers, viewers, however you want to call them. Just watch the videos and hit that subscribe button, because that will help me a lot so that we can grow together. Continue with your video now. And I'm talking circle, but this is a square. So what is wrong with you? Well, just a second. Do not worry about that. Over here, the wrap mode, I'm going to set that to repeat, and I'm going to hit apply, and basically that's that. So what is the next step over here? The next step is to open the Sprite Editor, and here it is. This is my Sprite Editor. If by any chance you don't have this Sprite Editor, so when you click on it and it says something like, you don't have a Sprite Editor, blah, 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 don't cry, okay? Don't be a crybaby. Don't go and complain to your mother, to your grandfather, to your grandma. Just go over here. So I'm going to go under Window and Package Manager. And when you have the package manager, this is how he looks like. So this is the package manager. You're going to click over here. So packages, probably you're going to see something like this. So in project, you're going to see something like that, or maybe even in my assets or whatever. But anyways, what did I do over here? Okay, here it is. So you're going to set over here the Unity registry, and then you're going to select this 2D sprite. So this is what you need. So 2D sprite. This is what you only, basically it will tell you what you need. And then what you can do is you will have here where it says remove. So for me, it says remove because I already have it. It will say for you, let me just select it, and let's see over here, install. There we go. So it will say install, and you're going to click on that, and that's everything you need to know. So over here, select the circle, go over here in the Sprite Editor, and now we will create a circle out of this little cube. So what we're going to do here, because this is going to be a polygon, we're going to select here the sides, and we're going to say 128 and change that. So when we change it, notice over here how these dots that you see on the corners over here, they're going to change. So click here, there you go. So now we have the circle, as you can see over here. So that's why we set it to polygon. Hit apply, and there you go. So now we have a circle and we don't have a cube anymore. Also, what I'm going to do for the square over here, I'm going to select it and I'm going to do the same thing, set it to polygon, pixels per unit is going to be 4, and over here clamp bilinear can be applied, and I'm going to hit apply button, and that's that. So what is the next step for me? The next step over here is in my gameplay window. So it's my gameplay window. I'm going to first rename the scene. So scene, sample scene, I'm going to simply call it gameplay because, you know, sample scene is an annoying name. It's a boring name. We don't want that name. So right click over here and create an empty game object. And I'm going to call this bad boy player. So player. And I am going to tag him with the player tag. Nothing fancy, nothing with an undo so far. You understand, this is the most basic it can get. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a rigid body 2D. Not the rigid body, no. The rigid body 2D, yes. So click on that, and it is going to be a dynamic, simulated, and everything over here is going to be as is. We're not going to touch it. I'm also going to attach a circle collider 2D because, well, we are going to have a circle that we still don't see. Of course, we see the collider circle, but over here, I'm going to set the radius to 0.25 instead of the 0.5, which is set to it by default. So now what I'm going to do is right click on the player and create an empty game object that I'm going to call circle. And for this bad boy circle, I'm going to add a sprite renderer. So sprite renderer component. And from the sprites folder, or even here from this little circle, you can click on that and you can select the circle, and there you go. So we have a circle, and this is the circle, but it's too big. So if I click on it, we don't want it to be this big. This is the collider of the circle, as you can see, and this is how big the circle is. We don't want that. So select the circle, and over here for the scale on the X and the Y, 0.5. And now when I select the player parent game object, you will notice that, well, the collider is on the circle. I mean, simple. What else did you expect from me? I don't know. So let's go over here now in the assets and right click and create a new folder for the scripts, because you know me, I'm all about organization. That do my organization, feeling the patient, and you know, I'm throwing some rhymes at you. So over here, create a new C# script that I'm going to call player controller. And what we are going to do, well, first reload this, whatever this is. Let's go back here in Unity and attach the player controller. There you go. And let's try to open it, and voila, there you go. I don't know why it made me so many problems as it just did, but yeah, now we can continue. So what we are going to do here on top is we are going to create a public float that I'm going to call force. We can say underscore force, and it's going to be equal to 230f, basically 230 value of the float. We are going to have over here a private rigid body 2D. There you go, which I'm going to call RB. Simply RB, and instead of the awake, or actually start function, I'm going to call awake over here, and I'm going to say RB is equal to get component, and we are going to say rigid body 2D components like this. This is basic stuff. You already know that. You probably learned from brackies who now quit, and you know, you have to, you're stuck with me. What else can I say? You're stuck with me, okay? So over here in the update, I'm simply going to say if, and I'm going to say input dot get mouse button down, and I'm going to get the mouse button 0, and 0 is when we left click on the mouse button, or when you press the key, or when you press with your finger on your mobile screen. So this works on mobile because this is a mobile game, and this is a mobile game tutorial. And over here I'm going to call a function called flap. And don't worry, it's not Flappy Bird, so we're not going to create Flappy Bird. But this function flap, we still didn't create it, so now we did. What's going to happen inside of this function is simply we are going to say rb.add force, and we are going to add vector to up, and we are going to multiply that with the underscore force. That's all there is to it. Over here, we're also going to have on trigger enter 2D. Don't worry about that. Collider, I'm going to call this other instead of collision, but we will come to this later on when we, you know, collide with the obstacle. Do not worry about that. But basically, this is what is going to apply force to R to the ball, and it's going to make it fall down, and so on and so forth. If I go back over here, let's wait for it to, you know, load it. So if I'm going to select the circle, and quickly over here for the color of the circle, I'm going to set that color to dark. So if I go over here in my game view, this is what we have. Now, what I'm also going to do is for the main camera, you can change the color. I mean, it's not going to affect the game by any means, but you know, if you want to follow me, you can just change the camera. So hexadecimal color is 904 FF. So 9004 FF. There we go, but it's not mandatory. If I go now and hit the play button, you will notice how the ball is going to start to fall down, but if I press the button, you will see how the ball is, you know, like flapping, like the little Flappy Bird that we are not creating. So no, just shut up, it's not Flappy Bird, okay? But you can see that, there we go, it is flapping and everything is working as it should. Okay, my fellow developers, moving forward over here, what I'm going to do is right click and create an empty game object, and I'm going to reset the position of it because I'm going to call this bad boy environment. So okay, I had to pause because I was spelling in my head how environment is spelled, okay? So next, what we are going to do is right click over here and we're going to create an empty game object. Now I'm going to call this one top because it's going to be a top game object. And here for the tag, click on the drop down list and click here to add a new tag. And click on the plus button over here. Everything is simple, not complicated, and add the obstacle tag. So going back over here for the top, over here, select the obstacle tag, and I'm going to click on add component and attach a box collider to the component. If I go over here in the scene, this is how it looks like. This is that box component. So next over here for the scale of the box component, I'm going to say 25 on the X, and on the Y it's going to be 8. There you go. Of course, this is going to be moved, so top is going to be at the 9 position for the Y axis. And let me select the main camera, and over here everything is 0, 0, 0, as it should be. So let me just quickly go over here. We have the top, which is at 9. We do need to change the camera, that is over here, I believe. Yeah, so the size of the projection is going to be 5.4. And that's why over here now, if I go and select the top, there we go. So it's going to have these over here. So it's going to be a little at so the collider is inside the camera. This is what I want to say. Next, I'm going to select the top and right click on it and create an empty game object that I'm going to call square. And for the square, we are going to add a sprite renderer component. And for the square, click here on the drop down right, basically on this little circle, and select the square, and there you go. I'm also going to select the square, and from here I'm going to set the color to be dark, because why not? Why shouldn't we use the dark color? I'm going to duplicate the top game object, and this time I'm going to rename it to bottom, and over here the Y is going to be at -9. So now these are the bounds that we have. If I go back over here in the game, so what I'm doing over here, I unclick 2D. So game, you will see here we have one bound. You will see over here we have another bound. Of course, we should set over here, so select the bottom and the top, and set the is trigger checkbox for the colliders over here, which means that if I run the game now, we will simply fall down. There we go, you simply fell down, and that's all there is to it. But of course, in our code later on, we are going to detect, so we are going to detect if we touch that bound or not. So that's all there is to it. Now, the next step over here, let me just quickly go here in the assets and right click and create a new folder that I'm going to call prefabs, because inside of my prefabs folder, I'm going to drag and drop the player, because why not? Why shouldn't I drag and drop the player in the prefabs folder? Why shouldn't I? Anyways, moving forward here for the obstacle, I'm going to right click and create an empty game object. So 0, 0, 0, even that is not important. We are going to tag it over here and make it the obstacle, and rename the game object to obstacle. And for it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a box collider 2D. Again, it's a 2D box collider. It's not, it's a 2D box collider. So over here, where is my obstacle? Here it is. Let me just move it. There you go. I'm also going to right click on it and create an empty game object, which is going to be a child of it. And I'm going to call it square. And for the square, we are going to add the component over here, which is our sprite renderer. And from here, we are going to set it to the square. That's all there is to it. Of course, select here the color palette and change it to the dark color, because why not? We are goth people and we like the goth color. I'm also going to create over here, while I am here, I'm going to go in the scripts folder and right click and create a new C# script. And this one is going to be obstacle mover, the movers and the shakers and the obstacle makers. I don't know why, but I'm throwing throwing bars at you because I'm going to offer you my mixtape at the end of this video. And over here, what we are going to do is simply change here to class. Actually tag it with the class. And if somebody is wondering why I'm tagging this with class, so that I know that this curly bracket is the end of the class, because sometimes you get lost in the code if you type something out, if you accidentally miss something to type, and yada yada yada. Next, I'm going to say over here public static, and I'm going to create a float speed, which is going to have a getter and a setter. So over here, I'm simply going to say set and get. This is going to enable us to edit this variable and to get it, so we can say speed is equal to this value or that value. So over here in the start function that I'm going to change to awake, I'm simply going to say speed is equal to 10. This is what I meant when I said we can set it to be this value or that value. So static over here means that we can access it from other classes, which is, convenient for us. And from here, from our update, I'm simply going to say transform.position plus equals, which means add to the current position of the obstacle, and I'm going to say negative vector 3 dot right, and I'm going to multiply that with time dot delta time, and I'm going to multiply that with the speed. So there you go. And what this is going to do, again, this is adding to it. This is the equivalent of saying transform.position is equal to transform.position and then plus and all of this over here. Negative vector 3 right meaning the left side, because vector 3 right is going to go to the right side if we say negative in front of him. So if we say or type in negative in front of him, then we are going to simply, make him go to the left side. That's all there is to it. So we can test this out. I can go back over here in my game and let me quickly go. Did I attach the obstacles mover? Yes, I did. So this is my game. If I hit the play button, you will notice now how the obstacle is going to move to the left side, and there you go. So make sure that you go back over here in the prefabs folder, drag and drop the obstacle, and voila, that's all there is to it. We're done. Goodbye, and thank you for watching. Anyways, I can remove the obstacle now from here, because the next part is going to be over here, right click, and let me just reset this to, 0, 0, 0. So come on, 0, 0, 0. I set 0, 0, and I was tapping enter. So let's go over here and reset everything. Thank you. There you go. So over here, the game object, I'm going to call it controller like this, and inside of my scripts folder, right click C# script, and I'm going to call this one obstacle generator. So obstacle generator, and select the controller, and now attach it over here. So simply double click this bad boy again. You know the drill, what we need to do from here. I'm not even going to say it anymore. I'm not going to explain it. You know me, I'm weird, you're weird for watching me, and there we go. Next, over here, we're going to say public static queue, so QAUA, and I'm going to say game object, so game object, and I'm going to call this one obstacles. What is a queue? So I'm going to call this queue. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I don't care. For all of you wise guys who are going to say technically this, I don't care. Okay, I'm going to pronounce it queue. You can die. I don't care. Anyways, this is like a list, like an array. Think of it as a list, because we can add items to it and we can remove items from it. So meaning over here, it's a generic type with a T. You see over here generic, which means we specify which type of items we want to put inside of this queue, and we specified game objects, which means we can put here game objects as much as we want. So we can put and remove game objects from it. It's a resizable array. Next, I'm going to say over here public int pool. So I can say over here pool size, which is going to be equal to 50. Next, we're going to have a public float underscore speed, which is going to be equal to 10f, and a public float underscore smooth, which is going to be equal to 5f. There you go. Next, we are going to have the width range and height range. So this is going to be a public vector2. I'm going to call this bad boy width range, and it's going to be equal to new vector2, 3, and 3. This is going to be the range in the width of our cubes. Next, we're going to say public vector2 height. So height range is going to be equal to new vector2, and I'm going to say 2.3f, so 2.3 and 4.3f, like this. So x and the y. Next, we're going to have a public transform, which is going to be our obstacle container, and a public game object, which is going to be our obstacle clone, or basically the game object that we're going to use to create clones of it. Next, we're going to have a private vector3, which is going to be our start position. Next, we are also going to have a private game object, which is going to be our top game object and our bottom. So we can say top and bottom, comma over here means we have declared two variables type of game object. So this is equivalent to typing over here private game object bottom. And instead of typing it 2 times, we can simply say top and then comma and then, the name of the other variable. Next, we're going to have over here a private float top height. There you go. Next, we're going to have a private float bottom width. There you go. Actually, top height and top width. So top width. And we're going to do with the bottom one. So private float top, or actually bottom height. And again, over here, bottom width. You can do the same thing with a float. You can do it like this, or simply you can, say comma, and there you go. And in order to be consistent over here with the naming, so I'm simply going to do it like this. So I'm going to remove the underscore over here just to be consistent with the naming convention over here inside of this script. Okay, so the next step over here is I am going to create a variable like this. I'm going to say here private float, and I'm going to call it top interval and open close parentheses. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to use a lambda expression. So I'm going to say get, and over here equals and greater than sign. I'm going to say top width minus smooth divided by speed, and I'm going to divide that by speed again. So divide that by speed again. What the hell is this over here? This equals greater than sign. This is a lambda expression, basically a shortcut. This lambda expression is equivalent. So this over here that we typed is equivalent to this. So it's equivalent to get, and from here we can say something like return, and then from here we can do this over here as well. So there you go. So this right here is equivalent to this, basically. So we are simply returning the values that we have over here. So top width minus the smooth divided by speed, and all of that. So all of this is in parentheses, and then we divide that by speed. We will use this value to get the time for the coroutine that we are going to use. So basically the time that we're going to use for the coroutine to wait. And we will see that in a moment, so don't worry about that. Next over here, below that bad boy, we are going to say private float, and I'm going to call this one bottom interval. And what we are going to do with the bottom interval is that we are going to say, again, get greater than an equal sign. And from here, we're going to say bottom width minus smooth divided by speed, and all of that divided by not social, but speed. There you go. Same thing, except here is the top interval, and well, below it's the bottom interval, and yada yada yada. Next, going forward over here, we're going to say private vector3 top scale. This is going to return the scale of our top, and we're going to say get greater than or equal sign, and equal sign is going to be new vector3, and from here I'm going to say top width comma top height and comma 1. There you go. This is going to be the scale, and like this is going to be our top scale. We're going to do the same thing with the bottom scale, except we're going to have a bottom. So over here we're going to say private vector 3 bottom scale like this, get greater than equal sign. We're going to say new vector 3, and from here bottom width and bottom height, and again 1 for the z-axis, because our z-axis is not important in a 2D game. Next, over here we're going to say void awake. And what we're going to do over here, we're going to say start position. So this initial start position is going to be equal to new vector 3, 15 for the x, 0 for the y, 0 for the z. And next we're going to call the function that we're going to call fill pool that we still didn't create. This function is going to fill this pool, the queue game object obstacles. And what we are going to do with this one is we are going to create void fill pool like that. And what's going to happen over here is we are going to say our obstacles is equal to new queue with game objects. We're not going to add anything to it, except over here now we're going to say for int I, which is equal to 0 as long as I is less than the pool size, which currently we set it to 50. So we're going to have 50 obstacles, I++. This is basic stuff. Brackeys did a tutorial series for, basic C# program before he quit. So you can, watch that, or even better, you can watch my videos. I'll be very grateful to you. And next over here, we're going to say game object clone is equal to instantiate. And we're going to instantiate the obstacle at the start position using quaternion dot identity for the rotation, and the obstacle container is going to be the parent of that game object. And our clone set active is going to be false because we don't want it to be active. And over here we're going to say obstacles dot enqueue, and we're going to add clone. What is enqueue? What is this? Well, basically this means we are adding the object inside of this obstacle array. So we are adding the object inside of the array. There you go. Simple as that. Now, before we proceed, because we do have more things to code over here, what I'm going to do is we do need to create the obstacle parent game object, because if you select over here the obstacle controller, you'll see that we need to attach the obstacle container and the obstacle. So from here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create an empty game object that I'm going to call obstacles holder, and select the controller and attach the obstacles holder, or container even better. So over here, because we named it container, there you go. And from here, from the obstacles, click on the button over here, so the circle, and we're going to select the obstacles. Did I attach the obstacles in the previous obstacle? Here it is. Controller, attach the obstacle over here, just so that later on when we test this out, it doesn't throw errors and we don't know what is going on, and then you're going to cry and call your grandma and she's going to be angry at me, and the drill. So going over here, we're going to create a private void, and I'm going to call this one update speed. Not the update function, but update speed. And then for here, I'm going to say obstacle. So obstacle mover dot speed is equal to the speed that we have over here. So the obstacle mover speed is equal to our speed. There you go. Next, moving forward, we are going to create a function that's going to return one of the obstacles from the array. So we're going to say private. So private game object get obstacle like this, and we do need to return an obstacle. So we are simply going to say game object clone is equal to obstacles. So obstacles, this is our queue. We're going to say dq. dq is going to remove an element from that array. Basically over here, enqueue will add an element to the array, dq will remove an element from the array, and it will return that element. And we know it's a game object, so we can catch it over here and get a reference to it in the clone variable, which means now I can say clone.transform.position is equal to the start position, and we can update the speed, and from there we can say return the clone. And over here, as you can see, update speed is going to update the obstacle mover speed to this speed, and there you go. So we have returned the clone and we are good. Next, we are going to create a void update top transform, which is going to update the top transform of our game objects. So what's going to happen over here, top.transform.local scale is equal to the top scale. And next, our top transform.position. So it's top.transform.position. There you go. It's equal to new vector 3, and we're going to say top.transform.position.x, and for the y we're going to say 5 minus top, so it's actually top.transform.localscale.y, and we're going to divide that by 2 and 0 over here. This is simply going to update the transform position by using the scale y, dividing that by 2, and it's simply going to change the position of our top obstacle. Next, below over here, we're going to say void update bottom transform, so bottom transform. And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to say bottom.transform.local scale is equal to bottom scale. And from here, our bottom.transform.position. It's not bottom like, your ass. It's bottom like the bottom obstacle. New vector 3. And from here, bottom.transform.position.x. And for the y, we're going to say -5. Plus the bottom.transform.localscale.y divided by 2f, and of course comma and 0 for the z position. So the same thing but the opposite. For the top transform we are saying 5 minus, but for the bottom -5 plus, which is going to bring it a little bit upwards. And this is going to randomize the positioning of our, so it's going to randomize the positioning of the obstacles. So the next step is to create 2 coroutines. The first one is going to be private IEnumerator, so IEnumerator top random gen, so top random generation. So we're going to, it's not generation like, people and living. It's generation, how to generate. So top width is going to be equal to width range dot x. And next we're going to say over here while true, meaning forever. So this while loop is going to run forever. And be careful when you are using while loops, because while true over here is going to run forever. So what do I need to do over here? Top is going to be equal to get obstacle, which is going to call this function over here, and it's going to, dequeue, get one element from the obstacles and put it over here, and then, change the transform position, update the speed, and return it. So over here, I have that game object. Next, I'm going to say top height is equal to random.range, and the random range is going to be equal to height range.x and height range.y. So it's going to be randomized between the two. And next I'm going to say update top transform, which is what we did over here. We are using transform position and local scale and yada, yada, yada. And from there, I'm going to say yield, return, new, wait for seconds. And I'm going to say here top interval. And this is what I meant when I said over here, we are going to use this value to determine the time that we're going to use to wait. And from here, I'm going to say top.setActive to be equal to true to make the game object visible, so that now it is visible. It is going to try and, destroy my game object, my ball, excuse me. And don't get any dirty, thoughts and whatnot. Next over here, I'm going to say private IEnumerator, and I'm going to say bottom, so bottom rand gen. Again, it's not generation in terms of what you are thinking, in terms of generating that. So bottom width is going to be equal to width range.x, and from there, again, while true. And what is going to happen over here? Basically, the same thing happened over here. So we are going to say bottom is equal to, so it's bottom, bikini bottom from SpongeBob, get obstacle, and it's going to return the obstacle. Next, our bottom height, not computer buffer, so it's bottom, not button. Height is going to be equal to random.range, and we're going to use the height range again dot x and the height range dot y. One more time. And here I'm going to say update bottom transform. Again, same thing what we did over here with our top. So just, different values. Next, we are going to say yield return new wait for seconds, and this time is going to be the bottom interval. And last but not least, bottom.setActive is equal to true, which is going to essentially activate the game object and make it available inside of our game. The only thing left for us to do is here below awake, we're going to say start function. We're going to start the coroutine called top rand gen like this, and start coroutine bottom rand gen. And voila. This is going to start calling these, how they are called? Coroutines, I forgot. So this is going to call the coroutines, and they are going to get the obstacle, which we already explained, and generate a random height and update the top transform, wait for seconds, and activate it, and over and over and over. So it is going to basically update that or repeat that process over and over and over. So what is left for me and you to do? Well, I can simply hit the play button now, and we will see that the obstacles are being generated. There you go. Here they are, but just a little while, and we are going to stop generating them, and we are going to run into an error. There you go. Queue is empty. Okay, now teach your grandma. Don't call your grandma. Don't call your grandma. What we need to do is here in the environment, we're going to right click and create an empty game object, and we're going to call this one boundary. And what's boundary going to do is, it is going to have a rigid body 2D, but it's not going to be dynamic, it's going to be kinematic. Kinematic means it has gravity, but the physics forces cannot affect it. It's invincible, okay? Next, we are going to add over here a box collider. And let's go over here in the scene. This box collider, we need to resize it. So it's going to be 25 on the X and 10.8 on the Y. So it's this large. There we go. It's also going to be a trigger. So make sure you set it to be a trigger. And we are going to go back over here in our assets and our scripts folder and right click over here, create a new C# script that I'm going to call boundary. Select the boundary game object and attach that script on it. And of course, you need to, double click it, open it, it's not going to code itself. And what's going to happen over here simply is we're going to say void on trigger enter 2D, not like this, on trigger enter 2D. It takes a collider 2D that I'm going to call other. And simply over here, if our other dot compare tag to the obstacle, if that is true, just make sure that these names match up. So obstacle over here needs to, match up with the name that we have over here, obstacle. Here it is. So this obstacle, they need to match up. If they don't, it's not going to work. Next, over here, other.gameObject.setActive is going to be false. So when that happens, if we collided with an obstacle, and actually, excuse me, it's not on trigger enter, it's on trigger exit. Why? Well, this is the wisdom. If I go over here, notice when the obstacles go outside of this bound over here, so when they go outside of here, this is when that is going to be triggered. So this is when that is going to be triggered. So on trigger exit. So when it exits the bounds of the collider, then we're going to deactivate it. And then we're going to call our obstacle generator dot obstacles dot nq. So it's actually nq. And we're going to say other.gameObject. Again, we're going to put this game object back inside of the queue. And otherwise, else over here, we can call, for example, destroy other.gameObject. Like that, simple. So when we collide, or when the obstacles go out of the bounds of the boundary over here, they're going to be deactivated and put back in the queue. And we can see that like this. So I can go over here and I can go in the scene, and you will notice now when they go here, you see they are being deactivated and put back in the queue. So this is what is essentially happening. And yeah, I mean, what else do you expect me, I cannot say anything else except what you just saw. And yeah, let's move forward. This was awkward. So next step over here in our player controller is in the on trigger enter. Now that we have obstacles, we are going to say if other dot compare tag to the obstacle. Again, you need to be careful with the naming over here. The best way to do this is, to create a class that holds all tags inside, and then you can access them from there. So when we collide with the obstacle, I'm simply going to say Unity engine.scene management.scene manager.load the scene. And the scene that I'm going to load is going to be from here. I'm going to copy this, hit enter and paste it down below like this. And over here, scene manager dot get active scene dot name. So this is simply going to reload the current scene that we are in. If I go back over here now, and if we touch one of the obstacles, be that the top, the bottom, or the ones that are moving, so notice now when we fall down, bam, you see game is restarted. When I touch over here, bam. And what happened over here? Did I, let me go over here, actually in the prefabs obstacle. Yeah, this one needs to be a trigger. If he is not a trigger, it will not work, so make sure he's a trigger. Let's try it out now. So if I go back over here now, when I touch the obstacle, bam, you see restarted, bam, restarted, bam, restarted, bam, restarted, and I'm not going to repeat it anymore. I just wanted to see how much would it take you to be annoyed. The last step is to create some camera effects. So let's go over here in our scripts and right click and create a new, what did I do? Not show in Explorer, right click, create C# script. I'm going to call this one camera effects. And let's go over here and select the main camera. So click on the main camera. Come on, main camera. Okay, here it is, and just drag it. And that's all there is to it. Thank you for watching. Anyways, moving forward over here, I am going to, create a class. And what we are going to do from here is that we are going to create a public vector2, and we're going to say rotate range, and that's going to be equal to, new vector2. You know how it goes, new vector2. It's like you already knew, but you didn't. Anyways, there you go, like that. And next we need public float delta, which is equal to 3f public float delay, which is going to be equal to 6f, and the public float target rotation, which is equal to 15f. There you go. Next, we're going to have a private float rot, ROT. Next, private bool R, or actually, do we need the R? I'm just going to put it over here, even if we don't need it. Private float target rotation. There you go. So what's gonna happen? We don't need to update. Whoever needs to update. And moving over here, enumerator. Here it is. I'm going to call it ROT. So ROT, that's how it is spelled. And here I'm going to say float T, short for time. It's equal to 0. And next we're going to say yield return new wait for seconds, and we're going to wait for the delay. So the delay is specified over here to be, like 6 seconds. That's how long we are going to wait. And then we're going to say while t is less than 2. So as long as t, which has a value of 0, as long as that bad boy is less than, value of 2, we're going to say transform.rotation is equal to quaternion.lerp, and we're going to lerp from the current rotation, so transform rotation, over to the quaternion, so quaternion.euler, 0 for the x, 0 for the y, and target rotation, so target rotation, actually the smaller one, this bad boy over here, target rotation, on the z-axis, comma, in 0.05 time interval. And from there, this is basically just going to go from this value to this value in this timely interval. That's all there is to it. And from there, we're going to say t, which is our float t, which eventually needs to have a value that's greater than 2, plus equals to time dot fixed delta time. And from there, we're going to say yield return new wait for seconds, and we are going to wait time dot fixed delta time. And yeah, I am so fancy with the time of delta time, my brothers. Moving forward, from there we are going to create a enumerator, which is going to be rotation. And from here, we're going to say while true. Again, you need to be careful with the infinite loops with the true. We are going to say target rotation is equal to target rot. And then we're going to say yield return, and from here start coroutine. And yes, we can yield return and start a coroutine that I'm going to call rot over here. And basically from there, copy this, paste it, and paste it 2 more times. So now the target rotation is going to be equal to 0f, and we're going to start the rotation again. Over here now, it's going to be equal to negative of the target rotation. And last but not least, over here, set it to 0f. So first time, the target rotation is equal to this value. Then we're going to call this and, do all of this over here. From there, target rotation is going to be equal to 0. And then we're going to call this and do this over here. But with the value for the target rotation being 0, because that is the target or the value that's being rotated. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And basically the last step is, just go over here and start coroutine rotation, and we are done. So now when we, run the game, we can go back over here. And if I hit the play button, you will see now how the camera is going to, hopefully we can see that. Come on, now the camera is going to start rotating after 6 seconds. There we go, rotation 1. Then it's going to go back to the normal, rotation. And there you go. Come on, again, come on, there you go. And next time it's going to rotate, but, with a different rotation backwards, basically. Come on. Okay, you get the point, but it is going to, come back to the rotation, the initial one, and yeah, yada, yada, yada. If you want to make this game a little bit harder, what you can do is over here for the controller, you can play with the width range and the height range. So you can play with those values in order to, make the game more challenging, because, in this state, you can just press, in the middle, so you can keep the ball in the middle. Everything is going to be okay. But play over here with the width range and the height range, and let me know or show me the effects that you come up with so that I can see them. And you can, share them with your email and whatnot. And that is that. Thank you for watching this video and for sticking this far. I'm surprised you made it. You deserve a medal. There you go. This is a medal that I'm going to give you. I cannot give you anything else. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. And if you can hit that like button and subscribe button, I will really appreciate it, because it helps the YouTube algorithm push my channel, because, we want to grow together. You want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. We all want to be a part of this. So just hit those 2 buttons, and I will see you guys in another Unity tutorial very soon. Take care.